back to the channel. Ngasi ki videos di mayam yamna interesting over video mane bai ngasi pore isa to mayam loy phong tan
I understood from the research was that the cookies in the 1800s or 1700s
were brought by the British
from Myanmar.
Kuki कहेगा नहीं हम तो यहाँ पहले से थे. That's where the history difference happens.
Anyone from Manipur watching this, I'm just trying to learn here.
The vested interests within Manipur also who would like to keep this running.
They like to keep this running in order to make more money.
More money. This is also a power struggle, so as to say.
phong tan yeng bi ngasi ki video sida ina pore ba topic asi akhoi gi Manipur gi mapanda leiba atoba Indian singna Manipur gi maramda kari kamaina khali amasung Manipur da hali thoiba thodok sigi maru oiba main reasons hai kari no have se mayamna Manipur gi mapanda leiba mi singna kari haina khali haiba gi maramda kupna nainaba adugumda ba podcast amagi maramda ngasi ekhoina video asi khana ne na seba ado podcast asida akhoi yamna famous oiba India gi yamna famous oiba TRS podcast hair maming chatliba Ranveer gi podcast channel sida ngasi in Manipur gi maramda khana nei ba topic amang ngasi aina pujarakpani masi gi khana nei ba sida maru oina Rami Niranjan Desai North East ki expertise oiba North East ki maramda yamna kupna nei na khangba mi sahi kun kunthra Manipur da spend torba North East spend torga North East ki manung mapan loi da khangba mi siumlaba Rami Niranjan Desai ngasigi guest oina la matungda Ranveer ga discussion ta udroiba topic sina Manipur da thoiba conflicts amadi Manipur da thoiba conflicts ki maramda kari ki maram gi thoiba no asuk kuiba topic asi lotion bangam drisi kari gi no masi lotion ba ya ba topic hoibra kanana tholiba no masi thon bada kana riba mi sina kanano kari gi thoiba no haimna singba topic manung gi oba wari mayam ma discussion ngasi tawgani ba discussion asi da koina maru oina aina video asi porpa reason di kaino hakanda Manipuri mapanda akoina hajik tawriba Manipur gi situation se kari haina khali amasung kari haina understand tawbage haibasi gi matang sida ngasi gi podcast discussion asida maru oiba topic khara gi maramda koi khanna seba du maru oiba topic khara gi maramda ai mayamda khangan bangambra yenge haigna ngasi aina video asi semjarpani so podcast si yengazi aduga mayamda topic matung ina topic yu matung ina ai marta adu mayamga wari dum tawsi mayamga discussion adum tawsi adu podcast hana yengasi adu podcast yeng matungda manungyoba Manipur ki matangda what India thinks about Manipur se khangba dakar oi aduna akhoi solution kamaina porpa yadagi Manipur da oiba situation ji problem si solve tawgi kari step lobu yai haimna singba ji matangda ngasi bigasida khana ne nasi
I understood from the research was that the cookies in the 1800s or 1700s
were brought by the British
from Myanmar.
Kuki कहेगा नहीं हम तो यहाँ पहले से थे. That's where the history difference happens.
Anyone from Manipur watching this, I'm just trying to learn here.
Kuki to adum yaroi moidi hana poropane je sunga ma yaroi ba sida hai se 1800 1900 ta Kuki je British na Manipur da porokhi bin hai ba se pura India pura dunia loi khangye ba adu Kuki di so aya ning oi ba sida ba se makha ta bong ta si ko
Vested interests within Manipur also who would like to keep this running.
They like to keep this running in order to make more money.
More money. This is also a power struggle, so as to say.
I also believe that
haji di thoi ba wa se India gi pa dai mi ni khali haji di thoi ba wa si kana gumba magi kana ba pore ba ma hai se hai thoi ba wa si gi matung ina kana gumba na paisa tan da adai kana gumba na magi income generate tawda kana ba phangi ba adu duna haji ki thoi ba thokdok se khoi gi Meitei Kuki gi conflicts thoi se sum continue adum ohaninge ba kana gumba kharana kai no haga na moi di pisa phangi ba adu ne ba mapalam dagi urei se Manipur da kai gi thoi no ha se makha ta si ko
some of that hilly land border that we share with Myanmar, or a lot of it, is very conducive to growing opium.
See, Myanmar, ever since Taliban has come into Afghanistan, a lot of the opium cultivation has shifted to Myanmar.
Taliban में पहले हाना तालिबान दा ओपियम जे हाना थारमेबा अदु दगी मतुंगदा नॉर्थ ईस्ट ता opium cultivation je lakhi bane bhaji somdagi thinga matungda somdang loi changa khreba aduni mo
You know, so it's almost like 90% of their cultivation lands in the northeast, to the extent that Manipur at one point had the highest rate of HIV in the country because of intravenous drug use. Now that has been shifted to Mizoram.
Manipur da north east ta poppy cultivation truck khawra matungda kwaidagi HIV positive oiba lebak se pura world Manipur ne oiram se ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯄꯨꯗꯤ ꯃꯤꯖꯣꯔꯥꯝꯗ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯆꯠꯈ꯭ꯔꯦꯕ ꯆꯠꯈ꯭ꯔꯤꯁꯤꯅ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯀꯨꯀꯤꯁꯤꯡꯒꯤ ꯃꯤꯖꯣꯔꯥꯝꯗ ꯆꯠꯈ꯭ꯔꯦꯕ ꯀꯨꯀꯤ ꯆꯠꯈꯤꯕ ꯂꯣꯏꯅ ꯂꯩꯅꯥꯁꯨ ꯂꯣꯏꯅ ꯄꯨꯈ꯭ꯔꯦꯕ ꯃꯤꯖꯣꯔꯥꯝꯗ ꯑꯗꯨꯅꯦ ꯃꯣꯏꯅ ꯎꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯑꯗꯒꯤ ꯔꯤꯄꯣꯔꯠꯇꯁꯨ ꯑꯗꯨꯅꯦꯕ ꯎꯠꯂꯤꯁꯦ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯁꯣ ꯑꯁꯤꯅ ꯇꯥꯛꯄꯗꯤ ꯀꯩ ꯇꯥꯛꯀꯦ ꯍꯥꯏ ꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯀꯨꯀꯤ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯃꯐꯝꯁꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯃꯥꯡꯉꯅꯦꯕ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔꯁꯨ ꯗꯤꯕꯦꯂꯞ ꯇꯧꯔꯝꯕꯗꯒꯤ ꯃꯣꯏ ꯂꯥꯛꯄꯗꯒꯤ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯈꯔ ꯐꯔꯛ ꯇꯥꯅꯔꯦ ꯏꯔꯥꯡ ꯊꯣꯛꯅꯔꯦꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯃꯤꯖꯣꯔꯥꯝꯗ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯆꯠꯈ꯭ꯔꯕꯅꯤꯅ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯃꯣꯏ ꯃꯤꯖꯣꯔꯥꯝ ꯀꯩ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯛꯀꯗꯣꯏꯅꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯃꯈꯥ ꯇꯥꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯀꯣꯟꯅ ꯈꯟꯅꯔꯁꯤ ꯃꯈꯥ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯇꯥꯁꯤꯀꯣ
When I was doing my research, I figured how complex that problem is in terms of Kukis, Meiteis, Nagas. Everyone is kind of fighting for rights as well as territory. That's the sense I got. Again, this is a very generalized statement. It's an extremely complex history and it's an extremely complex issue in the modern day. So after seeing all these videos on YouTube, after doing my reading based research, my consensus was that is this even a solvable problem? Because if you negotiate with one group, then the other group might get pissed off.
Ranveer, everything's solvable. Abhi, you must have heard recently, Ulfa also, faction came on board. Manipur mein UNLF faction came on board, which was functioning out of Myanmar. So every day you see, insurgent groups laying their arms. They are also tired, Ranveer. They're staying away from their families. They're in some rough terrain somewhere. They don't have proper food to eat, or they have to live a rough life. This sort of negative environment, you can't sustain it.
ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯍꯪꯉꯤꯕ ꯀꯣꯏꯁꯟꯁꯦ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯊꯣꯛꯏꯕ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔꯗ ꯊꯣꯛꯏꯕ ꯊꯧꯗꯣꯛꯁꯦ ꯃꯩꯇꯩ ꯀꯨꯀꯤ ꯅꯥꯒꯥ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯀꯣꯟꯐ꯭ꯂꯤꯛꯁ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯅꯥꯒꯥꯕꯨꯗꯤ ꯌꯥꯎꯗꯦꯀꯣ ꯃꯩꯇꯩꯒ ꯀꯨꯀꯤꯒꯅꯤꯀꯣ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯇꯧꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯑꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯕ꯭ꯂꯦꯝꯁꯤ ꯁꯣꯜꯕ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯉꯝꯒꯗ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯑꯃꯁꯨꯡ ꯉꯝꯃꯣꯏꯗ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤꯅꯦꯕ ꯃꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯇꯣꯄꯤꯛꯁꯤ ꯁꯣꯂꯨꯁꯟ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯔꯤꯖꯜꯠ ꯑꯣꯔꯤꯌꯦꯟꯇꯦꯗ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯁꯣꯂꯨꯁꯟ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒꯗꯤ ꯃꯩꯇꯩ ꯀꯨꯀꯤ ꯑꯅꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯔꯛꯇ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯁꯪꯗꯥꯏꯅꯕ ꯌꯥꯕ ꯃꯤ ꯑꯃ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔꯗ ꯊꯣꯛ ꯇꯥꯔꯒꯗꯤ ꯑꯅꯤꯁꯤ ꯁꯪꯗꯥꯏꯅꯔꯕ ꯃꯇꯨꯡꯗ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯑꯃꯁꯨ ꯂꯥꯟꯕ ꯂꯣꯏ ꯊꯣꯛꯑꯦꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯁꯪꯗꯥꯏꯅꯔꯕ ꯑꯃ ꯊꯣꯔꯛꯑꯒ ꯁꯪꯗꯥꯏꯅꯔꯕ ꯃꯇꯨꯡꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯁꯣꯂꯨꯁꯟꯁꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯌꯥꯏ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤꯃ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯇꯣꯄꯤꯛꯁꯤꯗ ꯊꯝꯃꯦꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯨꯡꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔꯗ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯒꯤ ꯑꯟꯗꯔꯒ꯭ꯔꯥꯎꯟ ꯏꯆꯤꯜ ꯏꯅꯥꯎꯁꯤꯡ ꯔꯤꯚꯣꯂꯨꯁꯅꯔꯤ ꯏꯆꯤꯜ ꯏꯅꯥꯎꯁꯤꯡ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯃꯣꯏꯁꯨ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯩꯐꯝ ꯆꯥꯐꯝ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯆꯥꯗꯕ ꯑꯗꯒꯤ ꯐꯦꯃꯤꯂꯤ ꯊꯥꯗꯣꯛꯑꯒ ꯖꯪꯒꯜꯗ ꯀꯩꯗ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯈꯣꯠꯄ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯈꯨꯗꯣꯡꯆꯥꯗꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯃꯣꯏꯁꯨ ꯀꯨꯏꯅ ꯁꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯁꯥꯡꯗꯅ ꯇꯧꯕꯁꯤ ꯄꯥꯝꯗꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯄꯥꯝꯃꯝꯗꯕ ꯌꯥꯏ ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯣꯏꯁꯨ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯇꯞꯅ ꯁꯦꯂꯦꯟꯗꯔ ꯇꯧꯕꯅ ꯃꯔꯣꯜ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯗꯒꯤ ꯇꯣꯛꯊꯣꯛꯄꯅꯆꯤꯡꯕ ꯃꯔꯣꯜ ꯑꯃ ꯌꯥꯎꯔꯛꯏ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤ ꯃꯄꯥꯟ ꯂꯝꯗꯒꯤ ꯁꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯎꯔꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤꯃ ꯇꯣꯄꯤꯛꯁꯤꯃꯁꯨ ꯊꯝꯃꯤꯕ ꯃꯈꯥ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯇꯥꯁꯤꯀꯣ
Again, another thing I found pretty crazy as someone sitting in Mumbai is the fact that at one point, I think the local police in Manipur started fighting with the Indian army. They fired bullets at each other.
See, a lot of things have happened in Manipur.
Right.
There's a lot of trust deficit between organizations, groups, communities. Sadly, I feel trust deficit, when that comes in, that's a little difficult to bridge. It takes time. It takes a lot of faith from both sides. You and me, both of us will want to solve a problem. Only then will it be solved.
Madam Haise, Kuki Meitei Anisi Manungsida Sangdainaba Karangom Toraga, problems is solved or see Haraga, Admina discussion number Kulatargati, problems is solved to Yai. Aduga Ranveer Hangmakansita Kuki Manipur Police na Army da CRPF da Hali Pui Putai, Habagi Matang Mana Hangmakansita. Akogi ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯁꯤꯆꯨꯋꯦꯁꯟꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯨꯡ ꯏꯟꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯇꯥꯔꯦ ꯑꯃꯒꯁꯨ ꯑꯝꯇ ꯊꯥꯖꯅꯗ꯭ꯔꯦꯗꯅ ꯂꯣꯀꯦꯜ ꯑꯣꯔꯒꯅꯥꯏꯖꯦꯁꯟ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯣ ꯑꯗꯒꯤ ꯄꯨꯂꯤꯁ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯣ ꯃꯄꯥꯟ ꯂꯝꯗꯒꯤ ꯂꯥꯛꯄ CRPF ꯑꯣꯔ ꯑꯥꯔꯃꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯣ ꯑꯁꯥꯝ ꯔꯥꯏꯐꯜ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯣ ꯑꯃꯗ ꯑꯝꯇ ꯊꯥꯖꯅꯗꯕꯗꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯇꯧꯔꯤꯕ ꯁꯤꯆꯨꯋꯦꯁꯟꯁꯤꯅ ꯃꯔꯨꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯀꯟꯗꯤꯁꯟꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯨꯡ ꯏꯟꯅ ꯑꯃꯒ ꯊꯥꯖꯅꯗꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯗꯣ ꯊꯣꯔꯛꯄꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯨꯡ ꯏꯟꯅ ꯁꯨꯝꯕ ꯊꯧꯗꯣꯛꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤ ꯊꯣꯛꯈꯤꯕꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯋꯥꯐꯝꯁꯤꯗ ꯊꯝꯃꯤꯕ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯅꯠꯇꯕꯤꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯑꯇꯩ ꯉꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯕ꯭ꯔꯣꯗꯀꯥꯁꯁꯤ ꯌꯦꯡꯗ꯭ꯔꯤꯕ ꯑꯗꯒꯤ ꯉꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯗꯤꯁꯀꯁꯟꯁꯦ ꯇꯥꯗ꯭ꯔꯤꯕ ꯀꯅꯥꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯑꯃꯅ ꯍꯦꯛ ꯌꯦꯡꯕꯗꯗꯤ ꯂꯣꯀꯦꯜ ꯄꯨꯂꯤꯁꯅ CRPF ꯑꯥꯔꯃꯤꯗ ꯐꯨꯏ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤꯗꯤ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯇꯥꯕꯗ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯅꯨꯡꯉꯥꯏꯇꯕ ꯋꯥꯐꯝꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯄꯥꯟ ꯂꯝꯗꯒꯤ ꯁꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯎꯏ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯃꯣꯏꯅ ꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯚꯤꯗꯤꯑꯣ ꯑꯁꯤꯗ ꯇꯣꯄꯤꯛ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯄꯨꯈꯠꯂꯛꯏꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯏꯅꯤꯀꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯖꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯃꯈꯥ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯇꯥꯁꯤꯀꯣ
But sometimes there are vested interests. For them, it's
This is most important.
beneficial to keep the problem running. And this is what we are seeing happening in Manipur.
What's happening?
Sinema ngasai haijagibdo kanagumba amagi kanaba phangiyeba thoiba lansida kanagumba amagi kanaba phangi haba ase kaino base ꯁꯤ ꯃꯄꯥꯟ ꯂꯝꯒꯤ ꯃꯤꯅ ꯈꯪꯉꯦꯕ ꯁꯦ
as we speak.
So, see, obviously the conflict has become prolonged. Now, one of the reasons it has become prolonged is because these are two communities that have lived side by side for, ages.
Correct.
And there's no way they can go. This is where they have to live. Unfortunately, what has happened is communities have become confined to certain geographical areas.
Okay. In the valley, you'll mostly find the Meiteis, and the hills have the Kukis.
And people say the valley is 10%. I'd say it's about 6%.
सिगी पॉइंट से मुझे नोट आउट है बस मपालम दे कई है उगे मणिपुर की हिल एरिया एंड द प्लेन एरिया की परसेंटेज मान हाई से रिमीन हाई से पब्लिक ना खाली जितना 10% की वैली एरिया ने ना खाली एज अ जियोग्राफिकली रिकॉर्ड की हिसाब से को अदु ताकि मान हाई ना अदु सुना ते इन हाई मान हाई ना 6% ने सिनेबा कोई लिवेबल एरिया है तारे मी लाइक या एरिया खतंग खंगलगदी 6% खतनेबा वैली एरियाज हैबरी लोकताक लेक की एरियाज लोकथोखर मतुंदा 6% खतनेबा वैली एरियाज
And
in terms of area,
because if you take out the lakes, the infrastructure, jo livable, habitable area hai, that is, in my opinion, about 6-7%. But that has the majority of the population. The hills has the minority population, and it's the hills. It has lesser development, and that's where largely the Kukis live. But it's not just that the Kukis live.
See, matang jam munda ko. Kuki की मी population से Kuki खत्म न तेबा Kuki is एक umbrella मतलब Kuki कोई umbrella जिसमें कौन दा इधर को आतो Kuki इसी की मनुष्य दा tribal मचा कोई की अतोपा जाति मचा में हम याव दो अदु ये मतंग दरे मोय हाई से अतो Kuki से जाति अमतंग न तेबा जाति मचा में जब पुंजिन लड़के सेम umbrella group Kuki है न कौबुआ ने बा हाई से को
You have the Meiteis also, you have the Nagas also. See, when we talk about Manipur, a lot of people only look at it from the prism of Kukis versus Meiteis. What about the Nagas?
बहुत याम नंबरू वे पॉइंट ने माजे हाई से Meitei and Kuki conflicts आई नसु आई की वीडियो में आउं हाई तना Meitei and Kuki से खन्ना दी ने को हाजी आदुगा मणिपुर से Meitei और Kuki का तंग लई बना तेवा आतई Naga सु लई रिबा आतई ग्रुप सु लई रिबा पांगन मिक्सी नाउ सु लई रिबा को अदो थोय बे थौदोक सिद मांगी से करा नो लोय मांगी न त्रोबा अदो मोय अतै कयम हाइदि सि गई नो सिने मोय सि खल्लि जो अखोय खल्लि सिगी सवान न मपालम दे सुमाय खल्लेबा अदो अखोय मन द लइबा अखोय अतोप जात इसिनि नाउ सिंग हाइदरे Meitei Kuki तोगा लान सि तो सि लोसिल जि हाइबसि कना पोंग सि हाइदब से सि सु यामना हंगबे याबो हंगनि हाना इन सु हाइजनिंगी अदुगा वीडियो सि सु रिमिना सु हंगबे याबो क्वेश्चन नेना सु सिदा पल्लिएबा
They are also there.
How do they feel about this conflict?
See, they have obviously there's been a Kuki Naga in the 90s conflict as well.
Yes.
Which took almost, I think, 6 years, Ranveer, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
To subside.
Yes. Precisely
so
6 years.
They are, they have used better judgment, let's say, to not really push themselves in because we don't need now another factor coming in and, this thing. But I think they would make a neutral party to be able to negotiate between two communities.
I think party ni si marung sida neutral over mima thora gadi solution si por pa yai habis ni man handin din hairi se
communities. This is my opinion, and tribal communities work very much on leadership, community leadership, elders who guide them, and I am not ready to believe that there aren't people like that. Who represent their own communities, who are willing to come on the table and say, okay, now what's the best that we can do?
Sure. Okay, coming back to what you said about vested interests. So,
vested interests koi gi lan sida thawai yauriba tanari se kanano sineba.
The Kukis are traditionally a tribal community as well.
Yeah. Now, there's another thing in this, that Kuki is an umbrella term. Naga is an umbrella term. Tribes have sub-tribes also. So the Nagas were 16 plus sub-tribes. Naga is not one unified tribe.
Sure.
They had different languages, they had different clothes, different weaves. Weaves are very
koi ki tribal chino ki macha group macha jing pullaga Naga ki sungai Naga haibasi khaptang na tiu Naga ki manung da leiba macha tribal groups sing ki pullaga umbrella ama oina Naga haina ko gi ya wane ba da Naga ki masing ki yam wani adu Kuki su aduni Kuki khaptang na te Kuki ki manung sita tribal macha mayam se punjil larga is umbrella Kuki haina ko wani adu Kuki ki masing ki yam wane ba aduni moi sita hai se ka
important. It tells you by looking at you which tribe you're from.
Gotcha.
And every home has a handloom sort of a machine. Because they make their own, weaves. And so they had that. It was different. Language was different. It was only when the British came in for better administration, let's say, like they did with the caste system, things like that. They changed the systems themselves. With the tribal systems also, what they said, we can't control them. They keep raiding us. We can't communicate with them. They won't listen to us. Let's give them morality. Let's give them civilization, because they saw tribal communities as uncivilized. So they gave them a common language. Then they gave them a common religion. So today, Nagaland is 95% Christian. It wasn't that before independence.
Nagasu Hanadi Christian Oram they have a Sisumana Sida Rimina Pali was a Kya Kalaiwa Chumino Lalino have the corner research scheme in approved of where do Rimi 23-year Northeast expertise where was a man hypocity to come to ever.
So under these parameters, the Naga word came to be used as a
umbrella term for
term.
a lot of the tribes which had some similarities.
All tribes. All Naga tribes that had some loose connection, but they didn't even speak the same language. They gave them a language.
Sure.
So they started speaking the same common language. Then they gave them education.